Hello and welcome to my channel. I'm MrTieDye, and today we're going to do what I call the Time Warp Heart. So what I have here is a t-shirt that's been washed and dried, washed and spun out so that it's barely damp. I've centered the tee, so I have the front here, the back here, one sleeve tucked into the other. I do have a video I'll put down below for centering a tee. And then I have myself a stencil of a heart, just because I like to have a nice even heart shape. Sometimes it's easy to draw a heart too fast and not get enough of a dip. So I like to just have a standard heart that I work from. So the first thing we're going to do is get this drawn onto the t-shirt. So like I say, I centered this, and we're going to work on just the front of the t-shirt. So let's even just pull the back part back out of the way there. So I have my collar up here. I like to go about 3 fingers down from the collar. That's just my preference on when I put a design on the chest here, is I like to have it just close there. Anyways, so we're going to use a washable marker. These are Crayola washable markers. I am working on the inside of the shirt, partly because it's easier to do the centering when I can see the hems, but the other part is sometimes these washable markers do not wash all the way out. So having your shirt turned inside out will put the washable marker on the inside of the tee, not on the outside. So to start with, we're going to draw this on one side of the shirt, and then for this design I like to have it drawn on both sides. So I flip that over, and I can kind of see the line through there. If you can't, you can just take a little mark here and see where you put your stencil, and then line your stencil back up in that same place there and draw that same line on there. Or if you have a whiteboard, a light board, you can stick that underneath. I've also put my shirt onto a hanger and hung it up in front of a window that has bright light coming through. So there's lots of ways to get this line transferred, but this here line is bright enough that I can see that through the shirt there. So we'll just draw that on the other side. And that's just going to help me keep everything lined up as we go through this. So now I'm going to flip this back over, piece it back up over there. Okay, and let me get zoomed in just a little bit so you can see a little bit better what I'm doing, because I'm actually going to roll this up from the top and from the bottom here, so stay tuned. Okay, you can see that a little bit better now. So what I'm going to do is start here at the top and just pick this up, and I usually will put just a little bit of a crease there where I'm basically folding the line right on itself here, and that just kind of gets me started. So I can line that up right there at that line, and then I'm going to start rolling this. And the main thing you want to do as you roll this is keep that line. That's why you want to have the line on the front and on the back, so that you can line this up and roll all the way around there. So as I'm rolling, I'm trying to keep this part of the shirt on the inside of the heart. I'm working that, getting that rolled up tight, and making sure that I'm rolling up this top part above that. So I'm just rolling this nice and tight here, and you got to keep this on the inside of the heart going, but I'm only going to roll about around to here. Once I get around that corner, I can start to feel tension here, and that's when I'm going to start rolling from the bottom. But you want to just try to keep this line just as straight as you possibly can as you go around that edge there. And I just keep working this here, keeping this tight here on the inside and tight above that. So then it's just really a matter of lining that line up as you're going here. If you start going off to the side, it's easy to see because they're not matched up, and then you're going to just get further and further off there. So you want to just keep twisting that, and if you have to bend the fabric just a little bit to keep it lined up, because you are going around a corner here, so you're going to have excess fabric. So I'm just rolling this up here inside and outside as I'm going on either side there. And at some point I can really feel the tension build up here. and that's the point where I'm going to clip this off and start from the other side here. Because I can feel that this here is not wanting to roll anymore just because of the angle that I'm going at. So what I have is just a binder clip here. Yeah, there we go. And I use that to hold this in place. So I just put that over top, and then I'm going to turn this back around and carefully unroll this. I don't want to unroll all the way up, but I want to unroll that part way in the shirt here, and then I'm going to do the same thing down here at the bottom. I'm going to fold that up just a little bit just to get me started, and then I'm going to do little tiny rolls and doing the same thing. I'm just lining this line up right on top of itself here, and once again I'm rolling up this bottom part, and I'm rolling up this inner part here, which is, like I say, already partly rolled up from this top part. So this here is what you have to kind of manage as you go here. So I can feel this here getting tight here. Like I say, these two areas are really twisting this here up. So you want to just kind of try to keep that flat. I can also see my lines wanting to separate on the both sides there. So you can kind of smooth that out also. Excuse me. And just keep rolling then. Once I get up closer here, then you can take that clip off, and you want to just be careful. I mean, there are some sharper edges on there. You want to make sure you don't puncture the shirt at all. And now I have this rolled up, and I have just a little bit of a gap. So what I'm going to do is just keep rolling both sides towards that middle and trying to keep them lined up right in their same place. Sometimes I can't quite get there, so I'll just pinch up just a little bit there in the middle. Yeah, you can see that little bit is pinched up there. But basically I want to just keep everything lined up in that same range there on the top and the bottom. And once I have that, I'm going to flip this around this other way here. Okay, so there's my line. Now I'm going to take my sinew and wrap, and I'm going to try and keep it just straight on top of itself here. I don't want a bunch of lines. I want just one line going around, so I'm just wrapping the sinew right on top of itself. Pull that tight a little bit, and then I do one more wrap around a few times. And then pull that nice and tight. Okay, and then I leave a little bit extra because I'm going to do an incline dye on this, so I like a longer tail. I'll show you that a little bit later, but I just tie a little knot. That just makes it easier to grab that and unwrap it whenever I'm working with sinew. So let me open the camera back up wider, and I can show you what I do with the rest of the shirt. Okay, once I have tied the heart part off, then I'm going to work on the rest of the shirt here. So sometimes the shirt will get folded up and just extra creases get in there. So I kind of pull this back a little bit, just however tight that's rolled up there, and try to roll that back up. I've also opened this up and just kind of scrunched it, so you can kind of do whatever you like with it. The main part that I like to keep nice and rolled up is about the heart and then this far down from it. That's where I really like the patterning at, and then the rest of the shirt is just kind of a bonus however you do it. This one I am going to kind of wrap it all the way up, and here on this side, since I have the two sleeves right here, And then of course this here is the back of the shirt right here. So you can tie another design on there, or you can just wrap it in. And since I'm going to do an ice dye on this, I'm just going to tie this all together. So I kind of tuck the sleeves down inside each other there. And then I make it so that I can wrap this top part, this collar, around. So I'm going to go back and just unroll that a little bit, the collar area, and then just roll that back up again nice and tight. That's just coming down from the heart there. Okay, so that's about how I like that. And then like I say, the rest of this you can kind of tuck it in however you like. I recommend just kind of exploring with it, like I say. So I have a roll here, and then kind of scrunched with the sleeves here in the middle. And then I'm just keeping that as flat as I can here. And then we're just going to loosely tie that together with some kite string just to hold it all in place. So there is my time warp heart all tied up. I'm going to tie up one more of these here. Alright, and this time I'm going to try rolling it from the bottom. I haven't tried that because I'm just used to always starting my hearts from the top when I'm folding them, but I haven't tried rolling. So I'm going to see what happens, how far I can get if I start from the bottom here. Yeah, and I can see this here is already wanting to roll itself up here, but it might be easier to do this from the bottom if we can get one big roll, although rolling the whole t-shirt up. Alright, I'm going to stop there and go to the other side here. Still have that little bit of gap there in the middle that I can't quite roll in without feeling like I'm going to stretch the shirt out too much. So once again, I just kind of bunch that little bit up, line that up as much as I can right there. Let me open that up and show you. So there's just that little piece right there. So I'm just kind of bunching that up in the middle, right in that same line, so that when I tie this off, the whole thing gets wrapped up in there. And just all, like I say, in one line there. I don't want to try to overlap and have the line going in different places. I want just one nice white line around my heart. So once again, I'm going to cut this off a little bit long so we can do the Incline Ice Dye. And let's see, with this one being more rolled up here, I'm just going to kind of go with that. Unroll a little bit, roll it back up tighter on itself. We got these sleeves right in the middle. See if I can lay them down inside themselves and then roll them up from the other direction here. We'll see what happens here. And it's fun to just kind of try different things, try it out new ways, and see if you can find a better way of doing things, or something that gives you a certain look that you like. This is how you kind of find your own style, is just by experimenting and trying new ways of doing something. So I'm just kind of rolling more of this up in various ways, and then we're just going to roll that up. Yeah. Alright. I think that's good here. Let me extend that out a little bit. I have a couple. Then this one here is an extra large. This one's a medium, so we'll be able to tell the medium I started from the bottom, rolled up. This one I rolled from the top. Both of them actually were rolled top and bottom, but this one I started on top, this one I started on bottom. So, anyways, I'm going to get set up. I just recently found myself some rain gutters. I went over to Habitat for Humanity and found myself a piece of rain gutter. So I'm going to do some ice dyes, and I put a little notch there in the top so that I can lay this in there and then lock that in to hold it in place. Well, there we go. So this will be my first time using a rain gutter. I've done other incline ice dyes where I've made something out of tin foil and cardboard and just laying it on the rack various ways, but I haven't done it in a rain gutter, so I thought I would give that a try next. So stay tuned, let me get set up. Okay, the next thing I did was get these things put into the rain gutters. I secured them by putting a notch up here, tying the string up there just so they don't slide down, but then I also put this tin foil down here at the bottom and filled a bottle halfway with water. That way I have a barrier here that when I put my ice in, it doesn't fill up this whole bottom space. I don't want to soak these in the muck, so the water will drain off and it'll be down here. These will be up out of the way. So that's all I did, is just build a little wall there. Ice dyeing is not my forte, so I just kind of play around at it. The main thing I wanted to show you is how to tie these, but ice dyeing is how I like the effects of the time warp the best. So I'm going to go ahead and get some ice put on these things, and then we're going to put on some dye. I'm going to use ALCHEMIST, INTERSTELLAR, Warrior Princess, and Dragonheart. And then I also think I'm going to use a little bit of raspberry on the heart here, just to make sure that I have some pink in the heart. But then I'm going to do a coating with these other 4 ice dye colors from Dharma. So, and these have already been mixed. I do 1/4 cup of soda ash with 2 teaspoons of dye powder in there. So let's go ahead and get set up. Okay, I'm going to start out just by sprinkling just a little bit right on the heart here. That'll just make sure I have some nice pink colors in the heart. And then I'm going to put some ice on, and then we'll just coat the whole thing with the various colors I just mentioned. Okay, that's ALCHEMIST on the first one, INTERSTELLAR on the second. I'll go with Warrior Princess on the third one. Yeah, I tied up 2 extra ones because I just wanted to have a few extra of these hearts, see how they all came out with the various colors. I've been playing with these ice dye colors, but like I say, ice dye is not my forte, so I'm still just learning when it comes to the ice dye part of how much to put on. Sometimes I put too much, sometimes not enough, and other times I get it just perfect. So I'm getting in there, but I recommend you guys to find your own methods of doing this, explore with your own styles and techniques. If something occurs to you to try it, I recommend you try it, because that's how I found so many different ways of doing tie-dye, is just exploring. Every time I had a what-if thought, then I went ahead and broke out another t-shirt and tried something different. So, these are looking fantastic already. I don't know. I'll see how it looks once all the ice is melted as to whether I put more ice on or more dye or a little bit of both, or if I just leave them and wash it. But for now, that's the time warp heart. So we're going to let these batch or melt here, and then I'll batch them for 48 hours. So thank you for watching. Peace, love, light, and laughter. Hello and welcome to another edition of Hippie Christmas. This one we're going to be opening up the time warp hearts that I dyed earlier. This one here I used ALCHEMIST on, plus here on the heart part I used a little bit of raspberry. So I'm going to flip this over. I only dyed just the one side, put the ice on it and let it all melt. I've seen this here. I contemplated putting some more dye on there, but in the past I've done that and I think I messed it up. You know, I got a little bit too much dye in, just made it a little bit too dark. So I've seen some others that had some real cool patterning that looked like they had to have had some white on the bottom. So I decided that on all of these I was just going to leave them how they were. So that's how this one showed up. Like I say, I can see the dye got down in there good and deep, but then there's a certain line where it's going to be just this here's blue right now. It might wash out to white, but we'll see. Anyways, let me get this opened up. Yeah, I forgot to untie the heart, but there it is. I can see you got a nice white line going on there. So let's open this up. Remember, this one was the ALCHEMIST. Alrighty, yeah, got some nice patterning on the back. Yep, I'm liking that. So I'm hoping that some of that light turquoise, hope it stays light turquoise and doesn't bleed out to white, but we'll see here in about 2 seconds. Okay, here's the other one. This one we did in Dragon's Heart, which is 206, the ice dye from Dharma. And once again, I thought about adding color, but I made up my mind that I was going to leave these as they were. So, like I say, I can see once again the color got halfway down in there. So, and then the rest is this lighter shade. I'm just hoping that these lighter shades are going to stay. I'm assuming that since this is an ice dye color, that those lighter shades will stay in there. But we're going to open this up and see. So, hang on. Yeah, that heart turned out really nice. It's back. Got some cool patterning on it. So we'll get this rinsed. You guys will see this in about 2 seconds. Okay, so I had a couple bonus ones that I tied up. One before I started the video just for a little practice, and then I did one more afterwards just for fun, just to have one more in this series. So this one here I did with Interstellar, and of course I did a little bit of raspberry. On all 4 of these I put a little bit of raspberry just because I wanted to make sure I had some pink up there in the heart. So let's see. Yeah, that's gonna look good. Once again, like I said, I had the bottom not saturated. I probably need to put more ice, or I've seen some people put ice above it, make sure they put dye so that when that melts it will roll down underneath, and that might improve my ice dye using the gutter system there. Anyways, let's get this one opened up and see how it comes out. heart presentation. And some more cool patterning on the back here. So we'll get this rinsed out. Once again, you guys will see it in about 2 seconds. Okay, last but certainly not least, we have one that I dyed in Warrior Princess, number 208 from the Dharma Ice Dye collection. And then, of course, a little bit of raspberry up in the heart area. That was the one thing I did for all 4 of these time warp heart designs, was a little bit of raspberry up in the heart, just for making sure there was a little bit of pink up there. I had to wrap this, I tied it, left it too long, so I had to wrap it around one more time. Alright, yeah, we got a nice white line there. And of course, once again, I didn't get enough saturation here on the bottom, but I think I'm going to try that extra ice and dye just so that that will run down the shirt on the inside of the gutter. I think I've seen other people mention that, so we're going to try that. But anyways, for now, let's open this one up, see what we get here. Alrighty. That one looks nice. That almost looks like feathers hanging down from the heart. There's some cool patterning there. Yeah, I'm liking these. So you guys will see this once again in about 2 seconds. Thanks for joining me. And peace, love, light, and laughter.